HR issues can kill you. One complaint against your company can turn your world upside down. And you spend way too much time dealing with HR when you should be spending your time on making a profit. You should talk to Bambi. With Bambi, get access to your own dedicated US-based HR manager starting at just $99 per month. They get to know you and your business while providing HR expertise and the personal touch you need and want. They're available by phone, email, and real-time chat, so onboarding and terminations run smoothly. Team members reach peak performance, and your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations. And with Bambi's HR Autopilot, you'll automate important HR practices like setting policies, training, and feedback. HR managers can easily cost $80,000 a year, but Bambi starts at $99 per month. Schedule your free conversation today to see how much Bambi can take off your plate. Go to Bambi.com right now and type in Accelerate under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. Spelled BAM, BEE.com. Bambi.com. Type in Accelerate.
Some cars are comfy on the inside but don't have power on the outside. And some cars have the horsepower but none of the comfort. I used to think there weren't any cars that were the total package. But that all changed when I got my Honda SUV. It's rugged and sophisticated, and right now, Honda has deals on the entire Honda SUV lineup. CR-V, HR-V, Pilot, Passport, you name it. So if you're looking for a car that's the total package, the only place you'll find it is at your local Honda dealer. Hurry before they're all gone.
Welcome to Accelerate Your Business Growth with your host, Diane Helbig. Diane is a leading small business development and leadership coach, author, and speaker who is passionate about sharing valuable ideas, tips, and techniques with business professionals worldwide. Diane brings you the world's experts and gurus in all things business, whether it's sales, structure, social media, planning, or plateauing. Guests bring their expertise and energy to each episode. When growing your business is your focus, Accelerate Your Business Growth is the show to listen to. Got a topic or guest suggestion? Let Diane know. The goal is to make sure you have the information you need to move your business forward. Thanks for joining us. Settle in and enjoy.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Today's podcast is sponsored by Audible.com. Audible.com is a leading provider of spoken audio entertainment and information. Listen to audiobooks whenever and wherever you want. Get a free book when you sign up for a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/businessgrowth. Accelerate Your Business Growth podcast continues to be included on lists of the best podcasts to listen to for small business, sales, leadership, and that is really because of the guests who join me to have a conversation. They share their expertise on their particular area of business knowledge with all of you. So you can take the information you need and you can apply it to your business so that you can be more successful. Today is no different. Today my guest is Bill Bice. Bill is a serial entrepreneur since the age of 14. Having built or invested in over 25 companies, Bill is passionate about enabling smaller businesses to more effectively compete with their larger competitors through effective marketing, particularly word of mouth, and therefore accelerate their business growth. Bill tackles marketing as a technology issue and will explain how this can be done effectively. Thanks so much for joining me today, Bill.
Diane, it's great to be here.
It is great to have you here. Marketing is such a big subject for all of my listeners, and I am curious, from your perspective, what the most common mistakes are that you see people making in their marketing.
Well, the two big ones, I mean, the number one mistake that I just see over and over again is people say, well, this is marketing, and therefore it's about me, and that's the mistake. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear about you. 90% of your marketing should be about the challenges that your audience is having in their lives, their businesses, their careers. And, 10% about what's happening in your company and what client or project you won. The more insight driven and perspective driven your marketing is in terms of what your audience cares about, just the more effective it is. And then the second biggest problem, and this is particularly difficult in small businesses, is consistency or the lack of consistency. Because what makes marketing work is committing to a strategy long term and doing that hard work day in and day out. And it's really tough, particularly for small businesses. You tend to focus on marketing when things are slow, and then they pick back up, and then it sort of goes by the wayside, and it just creates this cycle over and over again. If you're serious about growth, you've got to keep that focus on your marketing.
Yeah, it's so great, and I am so glad that you brought up those two things and that we're talking about this, because I agree with you, and not just in people's marketing, but in their selling. They think it's all about them as opposed to the person who they're talking to. So that totally resonates with me, and boy, I don't think we can say it enough that people have to stop thinking along those lines and doing things that way.
Yeah, I want every prospective client that you sit down and have a conversation with, I want them to be better off because they had that conversation, whether they ever buy anything from you or not. We talk a lot about word of mouth because it's the one form of marketing that just always works. And if you take that approach, it turns every relationship that you create, every prospect that you talk to, into a source of future referrals, because you've helped them. You've brought perspective to them that's valuable.
Right, exactly. Okay, so talk to me about marketing techniques that these folks can use to avoid those pitfalls that they are currently doing with their marketing.
Yeah, so when you really get down to it, because what we're talking about is content-driven marketing, and so I'm going to use a lot of examples out of B2B because that's where I specialize. And for B2B marketing, your foundation is really straightforward. The centerpiece is the website. We use LinkedIn to build a larger audience, and email marketing to nurture prospects and stay top of mind with that whole audience. But all those channels are being driven by the same steady stream of content. And so this is another 90-10 rule, which is 90% of the effort needs to go into creating great content. 10% is about the tactics and strategies of how to distribute that, which is important. And following that data is really important. But if you don't have a method of creating that steady stream of great content, then none of this is going to work. And that's the really hard part. And it just never works to do it internally. The ideas are there. We can sit down with a small business owner or a CEO and in half an hour get enough great ideas for 6 months of editorial. What I really recommend is finding that resource that already knows your industry inside and out and can put that content together for you, so you're not sitting there staring at a blank screen. So we've got a network of 300 subject matter experts, which is how we get it done. I've never seen any other approach. So we got to tackle that content piece in order to make this work.
Yeah, that's so interesting for me, because I think that is one of the biggest struggles for small business owners, is really being able to find someone who understands their industry well enough that they can go ahead and just create content without the owner having to be so deeply involved in that conversation, because they've got other things they should be doing, and they're probably not necessarily good content creators.
Exactly. You have a business to run. The only way this is going to get done inside and out is you either build a team internally, which is difficult in a smaller business to do. I mean, it's difficult even in a large business to do. Just getting this done is takes a lot of execution bandwidth. So the best way to do it is to find somebody who's good at writing who comes out of your industry, or the industry of your audience already knows it. I call it the copywriter problem. You don't want to take somebody who's really good at writing, that last week was working on a car dealership and this week is going to figure out, your niche enterprise SaaS solution. It's just you're going to spend all your time educating as opposed to actually getting something done.
Yeah, I get that. That's so interesting. So how do they find, that assumes that there are people who come from their industry or come from their target audience's industry who can write and who are accessible as that resource. So if somebody's listening and they're thinking to themselves, okay, well, that makes sense. How do I find that person? Are there directories or?
Yeah, so there's a lot of online marketplaces now. So it's much easier to find the talent. It's really the process around that. So when we start working with a new client that's in a new area where we don't already have a subject matter expert, then the first thing we're going to do is put a creative brief together of the first couple of articles that we want. And that's essentially it's the idea that we're capturing from the business owner. Here's the core idea we want to communicate. Here's the 3 to 5 bullet points that we want covered. And then we're going to go try 3 or 4 different writers and see who can really do that. And one of the things that we have learned is that it's one thing to get the expertise, which is difficult in its own right. And then it's a whole nother challenge to really get the voice right. So we've split that up. We look for an expert who knows the industry, and then we have a team of editors that are really good at taking that content and matching it up with the voice of the company or the CEO. Because trying to find one person who can do it all is really challenging.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You have to go through that effort in order to find it. I mean, it's been one of the hardest things about our business is getting that to work well.
I'll bet. That voice thing is huge, and I would imagine one of the probably the trickiest part of the whole thing, to get the owner to feel like whoever's writing for them is really speaking in their voice, in their the word's totally escaping me that I am looking for, but just in their belief system.
Yeah, getting the voice right, the tone right is really tough. It's always the hardest part of starting a new project. But the benefit of doing that is that once you've got it down and you've got a process around it, now you get this steady flow of content. Because the other alternative is you say, oh, well, I'm going to do it. And, I've never seen it get past the first article. So yeah, we sit down and write that first one, but we need at least 2 really great pieces of content every month in and month out, forever. And
Right.
Making that commitment as the business owner to do that, it's not the best use of your time.
Right, exactly. Right. And they all know it, because as much as they want to do it, they know it's the thing that takes a back seat when it comes up against everything else that they have to do.
Yeah, you've got employees to pay, you've got clients to take care of, and that's always gonna take priority. But once we have that in place and we've got really great content coming in, then what we can do is distribute it across all 3 of those channels. And particularly if you tie all that together. So I'm really big on the customer journey and understanding how is the content that we're putting out, how's it creating engagement? Is it pulling people deeper into our sales funnel? And to understand that, you've really got to tie email and LinkedIn and your website together. And so, for example, we want to see out of the traffic that's coming to our website from our emails, how are people then using the website? If we've linked all of our content together, the email is really just a starting point. And then we can see what's really interesting people by following their journey on our website once they get there. And there's just so much that we learn out of following that data. That's how we can really iterate on the content and keep getting better week after week.
Okay. that's interesting. I like that about connecting all of these things together. So let's talk a little bit about LinkedIn. How do you see that, especially I would say probably in the B2B space, how can it be used as a primary tool for business growth?
Yeah, it should be a primary tool. I mean, LinkedIn has just exploded over the last 18 months in terms of the amount of time the users are spending on LinkedIn. So if your prospective clients are on LinkedIn, and so if we're in B2B, then they absolutely are there. It can work in some B2C scenarios also. So if your target audience is there, however much time you're putting into LinkedIn today, you should be putting in more, because it's by far the easiest way to grow your audience and get people understanding the value that you bring. And I think the perfect analogy to LinkedIn is to look at it as a networking event. It's like the ideal networking event. You get to invite only the people you want to meet. You don't have to eat high calorie, horrible food while you are there. And you should treat it the same. You should go there not to immediately launch into a sales pitch, but to grow your network and meet people and build a relationship. And just like at a networking event, you're there to meet anybody who is a good person to add to your network. And so you should do the same thing on LinkedIn. So our goal when we're running a connection campaign on LinkedIn is to get really good at queries and sales navigator, so that we're really getting to the right prospects, and then send out 40 to 50 connection requests a day, every single day. And then follow that up with, so that initial connection, I mean, we all get these things that are really sales pitches, and that just doesn't work. You've got to come in with this desire to grow and help your network. And one of the best ways to do that is to follow up with every accepted connection with an additional message that includes whatever your best piece of content has been. That, once again, it's not a sales pitch. It's something that's really bringing insight and perspective that's helpful to your target audience, so that they get a real benefit from reading that content, and that's how you start the conversation with them.
I love that. That is so great. Okay, so in keeping along these lines, what principles from the challenger sale can be helpful in improving marketing, and once again, especially in the B2B space, do you think?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of the challenger sale. You know, the research that Gartner did, it came out of the Fortune 500, but we have seen it be amazingly successful in small business. And and the reason I keep saying, insight and perspective all the time is because that's really what the challenger approach is. So the benefit you have is you're working with hundreds or thousands of businesses that are alike, that have the same problem. That's your target audience. And so if you take advantage of that, the perspective that you can bring, because you have that much wider experience than what one business owner or one CEO or one decision maker can have in their one business, that's where the real value comes from. So you already understand the problems they're facing. That's what's driven the creation of your product or service. So turn that into that insight that really helps that prospective client. So they're better off because they read your article, because they met with you. That's really the challenger approach. And what it does is it creates sales opportunities. I mean, if you just want to be an order taker, that's great. But if you want to go create sales opportunities, in this day and age where our prospects are so much better educated and have so much information available, we really got to decide, do we want to be part of teaching our audience, or are we going to let somebody else do that? And this is how we create new opportunities. It's by going out and teaching our audience.
That's fabulous. I really, and I'm so glad. I know I said this before, and I'm probably going to say it again. I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because everything that I hear you talking about is about being of value to someone else, about putting them, thinking about them first, and how you can add value and how you can help them, as opposed to thinking, what is the best way for me to get the point across that they should be buying my product or service?
Yeah, that's such a great way to put it. And it, the hard part about this is it does take a real commitment to take this approach. Like, I don't believe that there are miracles in marketing. It really requires that you pick a strategy that you believe in. It's not something you can test for a month or two and say, hey, well, does this work? And it's not that you won't get results and directional data from that. But my advice is commit for a year and say, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do it because I can see the proof points and how well it works for other businesses. So this isn't something that we're inventing. Our whole approach has been to follow the data, see what works for larger companies, for innovative companies, and take that and how do we make that something that's realistic for a smaller business to do. One of my favorite quotes is Steve Jobs saying that good artists steal and good artists copy and great artists steal. I think I flipped that one around. We're gonna have to fix that one. There is a good point in there though, which is we want to learn from the best in the market and then make it our own and really own it. And there's no reason you have larger competitors spending millions of dollars figuring out what marketing works. Let's just learn from them and put it to work for ourselves instead of running all those experiments when you're spending your own money and you really need ROI on that marketing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. This is great. It's such a great, and I think it makes it easier for people to actually do. I think part of the problem with this old belief system of sales and marketing is that people find it really uncomfortable because we're raised not to talk about ourselves, not to brag, to be modest, whatever. And so then we turn it around and say, okay, now you own a business, now you have to do these things. It just doesn't feel right, so we don't do it or we do it poorly and then end up getting the exact opposite of what it is we are looking for. So, what you're talking about feels so much more comfortable and easier to implement because it's more on a giving level as opposed to a getting level.
Yeah, and it's really great for companies where it's not a sales-driven culture. So in consulting firms, professional services, this is a really great fit because all you're really doing is expanding your area of influence and helping a wider group of people. So we just want to take something that already works well. So if you've, I always look at it as you've already done all the hard work. You've created a great product or service. You're taking care of your clients. That's generating referrals. You just need more of those referrals. And now we live in an age where amplifying that effect of word of mouth is so much easier because of what we can do with social media and email marketing and constantly putting new stuff on our website. It is so much easier to get that engine running.
Right, exactly.
I consider the audience that a business owns to be the most undervalued asset in every company, because this group of people that you can talk to over and over again without having to pay anyone is just an amazingly valuable asset. It's just you got to put it to work in the right way. And the corollary to that is don't spend $1 on paid advertising until you've picked all this low-hanging fruit and you have this marketing machine in place so that you're leveraging every lead, every referral that comes in. You're following up on every single one of those leads. Until all that's in place, you shouldn't be spending any money on advertising. It's all got to go to creating this foundation.
Oh, that's fascinating. Okay, hang on one second. I'm going to take a quick sponsor break, and then I want to continue this. Accelerate Your Business Growth podcast is happy to be sponsored by Audible.com. Audible.com is a leading provider of spoken digital audio entertainment and information. They have over 150,000 titles to choose from, and you can listen to them on any device, including whatever you're hearing us on right now. And if you sign up at our link, which is audibletrial.com/businessgrowth, You get one free audiobook and a 1-month trial of the service. Some examples of books you can listen to on audible.com are Do Business Better by Damian Mason and Breathe to Succeed by Sandy Abrams. So visit audibletrial.com/businessgrowth, explore the books that are of interest to you, and receive one free audiobook when you sign up for the trial. Today we're speaking with Bill Bice about using word-of-mouth marketing to grow your business. So I find this so interesting. Before the break, you were talking about how you shouldn't do any paid advertising until you've done the word-of-mouth marketing and you know so much more about your audience. And it's funny because I think most marketing companies tell people, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to create these ads on Google and Facebook and LinkedIn, and we're just going to get you in front of your target audience that way. So how come that isn't why? What is it about that you think is not the first line? Give us a little bit more about why that probably is not the best process.
Yeah, it's the classic putting the cart before the horse. So one of the things, if you're in the business of helping small business with their marketing, one of the most frustrating things is that when you're really successful and you drive leads to a small business, the vast majority of them are not that good at taking those leads and turning them into sales.
Yeah.
We have to tackle that first. There's no reason to create more leads if we don't have the process in place. And so if you have a sales team, part of this is just the human psychology. Like if I'm a salesperson and I don't see a commission check in this particular prospect in the next 60 to 90 days, I'm probably not going to put a whole lot of focus into following up with them. And yet there's a great chance that they're going to be a really good prospect 6 months or 12 months from now. So we need to put the foundation into place so that we're doing three things really well. We're capturing all the referrals and leads that are coming to us. We're following up with all of them. So we need marketing automation in place. So that every new contact we're making, we're automatically telling them the story of who we are and why we're passionate about what we're doing. And then three, we need to stay top of mind with this larger audience that we're now very effectively growing. So as a great example of this, so like getting people to use CRM I'm a huge fan of CRM, but getting people to actually use it is almost impossible. So one of the things we do, we created a product called Mailbox Mining, that what we do is monitor the email box of everybody who's client facing in your company and pick out everybody you're talking to and go add them to your email list and to your CRM. Because just by capturing that audience and then regularly talking to them, really wonderful things happen. So we need to do all that first, because otherwise spending money for leads, it's, you might as well like YouTube burning the money and hope that video goes viral, because that's about the effect you're going to create.
That's so great. Okay. So let's talk about word of mouth marketing. I think people have different definitions of what that is. So I'm curious what you mean when you say word of mouth marketing.
So what I want to do is take that thing that's already working, which requires that all the hard work has been done. You have referrals coming in. You just want to have more of them. And if that's the case, then if we focus on creating social currency with our audience, give them reasons to talk about us. So you may think that your clients spend all their time thinking about you, but they probably don't. And if you do a good job of feeding them useful nuggets so that the next time they're at lunch with a peer and the issue that you address comes up, and they just got an email a few days before from you that's talking about something that really, is really relevant and hits on that, well, you just created a referral that wouldn't have existed otherwise. And if you're constantly posting on LinkedIn and keeping those business owners apprised of things that are really useful to them, you're doing the same thing. You're giving them social currency to turn around and talk about you. And it turns all kinds of additional referral sources into referrals. So a lot of businesses, a ton of referrals come from, so in professional services, a lot of other service providers are often the best source of referrals. So let's build a list of who those folks are. If you get a lot of referrals from accountants, from lawyers, let's look at it from their perspective and keep feeding them things that are really useful to them and helping their clients. That creates a steady flow of referrals. And so it's just taking those things that are already working and putting them on steroids by leveraging the new channels that we have available now.
I really like this because as you're talking, what I'm hearing is that instead of just creating like a call to action sort of message, it sounds to me like what you're talking about is really doing the investigation in a company to really find out, okay, who are you in front of consistently? Who are you providing a valuable service to? Who are they potentially talking to? And what ways can you be in front of them where you are still providing them with valuable information and are top of mind? That's what that's sounding like to me.
It is. One of the pieces of data that came out of the Challenger sale that I thought was so compelling, which is that what they label as Challenger reps who take this approach, exactly what we're talking about, who are willing to push a little bit on their clients in order to have them look at things differently, is that those top performing sales reps, they spend a third of their time building their own marketing material. But imagine how much better a place the company is to create that same sort of insight-driven marketing if you leverage the experience of all your sales reps and the whole rest of your team. So not only are you giving your best sales reps more time to sell, you're also enabling other sales reps to take more of a challenger approach.
Yeah, that's great. I can totally see that too, that the top people are, because they're just making it happen and they know who they're talking to. So
and the
they
companies
know what to share with them.
Exactly. They're on the front line. They really understand what's going on. And the company is feeding them things that are all about the company. And they know that what's most effective is to talk to that prospective client about the challenges that they're having.
Yeah, right. Right, exactly. Yeah. Okay, and you also say that marketing should be tackled as a technology problem, and I would love it if you would expand on that.
Yeah, so what we're talking about is a discipline here where, marketing, that's something people go into because they don't want you to understand what they do. And it has long, marketing as a discipline has just long resisted attempts at scale and efficiency. But particularly for a small business, if you're really going to make this work, there has to be scale and efficiency involved. So we got to put technology to work. But at the same time, one of the big issues in a small business is you don't really have the expertise and time to go implement, 20 different tools in order to make this happen. So that's really the problem that I found very interesting, because I've founded, invested in a lot of companies, and the marketing is that's the hard part. And go to market is what determines whether you get the success that you deserve. And it was just always such a struggle getting that to work well. It's why I decided to tackle the problem. And so what I mean by technology is not that we're gonna, because what you say and the expertise required around that is absolutely critical. But if we don't have technology, then we're not going to get the scale and efficiency that's going to get us an ROI out of this.
Okay, so you can't, okay, how do I want to ask this question? So if anyone's listening and they're thinking, oh, well, then all I have to do is create an automation system where I'm just constantly feeding information out into the, digital sphere or whatever, that it sounds to me is insufficient. That it is not just about doing that, but that technology is a big part of the process and the system for making sure that you have consistency.
Yeah, we have to tie all the, I mean, what we see in following this across hundreds of small businesses is that we got to tie all the pieces together. So we got to have the starting point of great content. We've got to be able to efficiently distribute it and follow up on the analytics. And we actually have sort of the opposite problem today, right? There's the famous quote of I know half my advertising is wasted, I just don't know which half. And that was a lack of information. Today, we've got the opposite problem. We have too much information.
Yeah.
And so it's how do we need to, technology has to be applied to this problem also so that we can turn all that data into information that we can make decisions on and particularly iterate on what's really creating engagement and working with our audience. So we got to tie all those pieces together, the content, the delivery, and then the follow-up in order to understand what's going on. And automation is really the only way we can get enough efficiency to do this day in and day out in a way that is cost effective. So if you have the desire and you love the technology, then putting the time in to buy the tools and build the nurturing campaigns and tie it into your website and tie all the analytics together, that's absolutely worth doing. But if that's not what your expertise is, it's still absolutely worth doing. You just need to go get somebody to do it for you.
Right. Exactly. Right. And I would imagine that regardless of whether it's something you enjoy doing, someone else should be doing it for you instead of you doing it.
Yeah, there are rare people that just love doing that and they want to spend their nights and weekends working on it. But I would argue that the value you can create in your business is so much higher. And, the advantage I have is I do this over and over again for business after business. So, of course, it becomes much more efficient in order to implement the same process and approach multiple times. And
right.
We ended up writing our own automation platform around this because we just couldn't get all the pieces put together in the right way without doing so. Yeah,
well, and as you said, it's because you are consistently doing it. So for different companies, so you can see where those gaps are, and then how to plug them in. Where if someone's doing it just for themselves, they don't have that. They're not seeing that scalability. They're not seeing that repetition of the same problem in a couple of different ways to be able to see there's a solution to it, I would think.
Yeah, what I love about what I do is I get to leverage the data across several hundred small businesses, which means I see those problems and I see the trends so much more quickly than you ever can operating just in one business.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And one of the things I love about this is that it really is data driven. It really is about doing the investigation and not just creating the same thing for like every company or having a small business owner say, well, this is what other people are doing in my industry and it seems to be working for them, so I'm just going to do it, when their audience could have completely different needs and interests and information.
Yeah, and one of the traps that you have to watch out for is there's a lot of marketing options out there that are prepackaged content. Because the hard part is the content, we're going to write content once and then reuse it over and over again. And there's probably cases where that works, but the kind of higher value businesses that we work with, that just is never going to work. You're never going to match up with what your audience really cares about. You're not going to communicate what really makes you different if you're taking that approach. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There isn't a shortcut to creating great content. You just have to do it.
Right. And I think the audience sees that a mile away. I think they can tell when it's content for content's sake, as opposed to this is something I can connect to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's fascinating. This is really such valuable information. I so appreciate it. Will you tell the listeners, how they can find you, whatever you've got going on, please?
Yeah, and so we're actually a great example of exactly what we're recommending that you do. We eat our own dog food, so you can go to boomtime.com and see how we do it. Look me up on LinkedIn. It's Bill Bice, BICE. I love talking to business owners about their marketing. You can reach out to me at CEO@boomtime.com. And I'm now following in your footsteps. I've started the B2B word of mouth marketing podcast, where we lay out exactly what you need to do in order to run a marketing program like this. And I want to see as many small businesses doing this as possible, because this is how you compete with the big guys.
Yeah. Well, good for you. Congratulations on the podcast. That's a wonderful thing, in my opinion.
It has been a lot of fun.
I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't think so. Wonderful. Well, that is great. Thank you so much. And listeners, I really hope you were paying attention to what Bill was saying. I mean, the good news is you can listen to the episode again if you need or want to, but really take it seriously, give it a ton of thought, reach out to Bill to, really explore what you can and should be doing with your marketing. It'll be so much more effective and so much easier for you to do. And would like to thank our sponsor, Audible.com. To get a free trial of Audible.com, as well as a free audiobook, just go to audibletrial.com/businessgrowth to sign up. As always, continue to prosper and be curious. And until we meet again on another episode of Accelerate Your Business Growth, goodbye and good day.
Me, but also you. The Pharaoh fast forwards his favorite foreign film, Powder Donut. Okay, what's my line?
The only line I see here on the script is get options based on your budget with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive.
Oh man, that's a tongue twister, huh? I'm sorry, I'm gonna need a few more minutes. Bulbous Walrus, the Bulbous Walrus.
The Name Your Price tool, only from Progressive.
The owl ran afoul of the comatose coxswain.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Full send with the driver? Check. Piercing iron through the wind? Check. Low checker, high spinner, flop to a tight pin? Check, check, and check. No matter what shot you need to pull off, there's one ball that's better for them all. The all-new TP5 and 5X from TaylorMade. With a newly redesigned dimple pattern, engineered for more distance, more control around the green, and better stability in the wind, it's the hottest tour ball in golf. So no matter what shot you face, there's one ball that's better for all. The TP5 and 5X from TaylorMade.
We are Jackie Clayton and Katie Van Horn, co-hosts of the Inclusive AF podcast. We're two diversity, equity, and inclusion peeps who love both what we have in common and what makes us different.
During the day, we use our superpowers to block bias and break down systems that are inequitable within companies and create inclusive AF places to work. We're also BFFs who have tough conversations about our different lived experience. Come have a listen and learn something new.